ask you a question, you can just complete it in a full sentence. So if I say, what is your name? My name is, and that way. Can you guys just be a little quiet? Okay. My name is Day Johnson. I'm interviewing Miss Promolia Smith here at the John G. Historical Center in Gallipolis, Ohio on June 19th, 2007. I'm going to start with the easy question.
Good.
What is your full name, and please spell it for us?
My full name is Promolia Smith. Promoliasmith.
What is your maiden name?
My maiden name was Promolia Stroud, and that's Promoliastroud.
Now you have an interesting first name. Do you know how you got that first name or where it comes from?
Well, I often ask, and it was just a name that my mother liked, and I'm assuming that it was a southern name, because there's so many flowers with that molia on it, magnolia and all that stuff. And I was real inquisitive about it when later I came here, and a friend of mine, Rose Stoney, she said, she was taking French, she says, part of that's flower. So I don't know what the other part is, but.
What is your date and place of birth?
The date is January the 14th, 1934, and I was born in a little town called Alpine, Alabama, and that was in Talladega County.
Now, were you born at home or in a hospital?
Home.
And do you remember who came? Did a doctor come, a midwife?
Midwife. I had midwife.
What do you consider your family ethnic or racial background to be?
Well, on my dad's side, his father, which was my grandfather, was half white. And on the other side of my father, that was black. My mother's side of the family was Indian, and I assume Negro or black.
Who were your parents? What was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Veda Swain.
Where was she born?
She was born in, I believe, Sylacauga, Alabama. If I just from growing up and listening to them talk, I'm not positive, but it's in that area.
When was she born? Do you know?
Well, let me see. Mom, I was born in 34, and she was, I think, 22 years old when I was born, so that sounds about like her birthday was July the 1st, and probably 1921 maybe. I'm not for sure of the year.
How about your father? What was his name?
Robert Charles Stroud, and they called him R.C. And he was born in Alabama also. I'm not for sure exactly where. I remember my great-grandmother, his grandmother, always talked about Coosa County, as in Alabama. Just so I'm not positive all that.
Do you know how your family got to Ohio? Or what brought them here?
Well, growing up, my father's mother, I think, died when he was young, maybe childbirth, I'm not sure. And so his grandmother raised him. And his father was left, well, my grandfather, my dad's father, I think he left Alabama at a very young age. He had gotten some trouble, so he had to leave there. And he was lost, my dad was lost from him for years. He was a grown man, and he had all of us. My dad had 6 children, and so he was looked and hunted for my dad, and finally he found him. My grandfather, Alonzo Stroud, had settled in Holden, West Virginia. So when he found my dad, he says, I never did anything for my son. And he came there and brought us to, my brothers and sisters, to Holden, West Virginia. And we stayed there for about a year or so. And then he bought a farm here on what you call Georges Creek. Here is in Addison Township. And he remodeled a home. And so we all moved from West Virginia, Holden, West Virginia, to out here on Georges Creek. And that's where we all, and my great-grandmother came with us. At the time, my mom and dad had separated, and they were still in Alabama. And so later years, my dad went to Detroit. And later on, Mother came here with us for a while. And she stayed here for a while. There wasn't any much work or anything here. She did some housework and stuff. So she moved to Chester, Pennsylvania. She had a twin sister there, and she went there and got work. And we stayed with our grandmother, Maggie or Margaret Shack. And she, would send money back to help out and everything. So that's kind of how we got here to Ohio.
So how many years have you been living here in Ohio then?
Seemed like we came here in about 40, in the 40s, about 43, 1943 or 45, somewhere in that area. It's been, I don't remember the dates right now.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have total then?
There were 6 of us. There were 2 boys and 4 girls.
And where do you fit in the birth lineup?
I'm the first.
What is your spouse's name?
Gerald Hillard Smith.
And where was he born?
Kerr, Ohio.
What did?
Kerr, K-E-R-R, Kerr, Ohio. And that's, well, now everybody calls it Buck Ridge. And he's still out there. That's where we live out there on the original home, not the home, but the place. And where he was born, the old home still stands there. But of course, we've just divided up, and each one of her children, his mother and father had, gave each one of the children some property there, and we built, and we still live there.
How did you meet your husband?
Oh, well, we living here, and of course there was a friend. I had a girlfriend that her grandmother lived in here on 4th here in Gallipolis, and his brother, my husband's brother, Willard, he was married and he lived over on 4th. So my husband would come in there a lot. So my girlfriend had through them knew of him, and she kept telling me, of course, when I was telling me that, oh, if you saw him, oh, he is so sharp and he's so this and that and other. And I'm thinking, because my girlfriend was white, we went to school together, and I'm thinking, oh. But anyway, I come to find out, you know, that who Gerald was, and I think one day he drove up through, up on Georges Creek. He had a motorcycle and Harley Davidson, and he also had an Oldsmobile. He'd worked as a young man coming up. He just he was working he's same way. He's very dependable and just, but anyway, he came up, and I think we were hunting hickory nuts up along the roads. That's how I first met him, and so it just kind of he'd call on the phone sometimes, and we had one of those telephones back then where you had 3 or 4 neighbors on the same line, you know? And ours was one of 03R4, and then my girl, and so whenever all the phone, the rings would come into these 4 families, you know, that's how it was back then. And of course, you know, everybody was listening then, but that's how we grew up there. And of course, I went to school, grade school, up on, it's on the old Buellville School, they call it, and it was a mixed school. And we had, there wasn't it was all white school, just about. Of course, I had some cousins that lived over there, my grandfather's home for a while, and we lived upstairs and they lived downstairs, a big home, and we all went to school. And there was one other family, the Garnes boys, they went to school there. And so we went to the old Buellville School, and that's where I finished my grade schooling. And
where'd you go after attending school there?
we went back, I went to Gallipolis, Gallia Academy. That's where I graduated from.
Now, how old were you when you met your husband?
Probably 17, maybe, somewhere, I don't know.
How old were you when you got married?
19.
Oh, where did you get married?
We got married in Bidwell, Ohio, in Reverend Payne's home. My grandfather and my grandmother, Alonzo and Eddabelle Stroud, were our witnesses, and Mrs. Payne. We were married in his home.
And how did you know Reverend Payne?
Well, growing up, from when we came from West Virginia, there was a lot of people up there. Were coal miners. My grandfather was a coal miner up there, and we knew a lot of people up there. And eventually, they all bought farms around here in Gallia County, and several of them moved in the Bidwell area. And I knew a lot of the kids from up there that we went to school with in church. We went to church a lot up there. So knowing them, we went to Bidwell, and so that's how I kind of knew a lot of the people in Bidwell. And I went to, at the time, there wasn't really a church around close enough to where we lived over on Georges Creek. We'd go to Mount Carmel, and that's where Reverend Payne was a minister there. And so I had joined church there, and of course that's how, I come to know them. And
so how big a part of church or did religion play in your life growing up?
Well, in Alabama, we were we were young, and we didn't get to go to church an awful lot because we had to walk. It was walking, and everybody didn't have well, my dad had one, but you just had to walk a lot. Mom and Dad went a lot, and we always kind of got I remember the things of the big church dinners, the basket dinners out under the tree in the churchyard, you know, and that sticks with me. But like I said, we were all kind of small and we didn't get to go as much. But when we moved here to Ohio, and there wasn't much church then, my grandfather had built a building over on Georgia Creek here, and he had put he bought it to make concrete blocks, cinder blocks to remodel their home. So my grandmother, we didn't have any church to go, and my grandmother had got a hold of the little card, you know, you say, I love Jesus, and Jesus wept, and the little story and the pictures on front. And she had somehow got a hold of those, and she would have Sunday school for us in this building there. And she'd invite some of the other children around. So there was a man that lived there. He was he had a lot of kind of influence around, and he was built homes and different things. But anyway, he was married to this, his name was Raymond Barr, and Raymond Barr's wife's father, Mr. Cook, said, you know, then we need a little church here or something. So they built a little church out there, and cinder block church. So everybody started going to church there. So we went every Sunday, and whenever we had things going on, because we was living out that far out, that was 5 miles or more, and it was kind of hard to get into Gallipolis to church and everything. So that's where we started off going to church there. And after, you know, we were, all of them, my sister and brother, we growing up and met different boys or girls. Well, I had a boyfriend, and Gerald had his car, and so we got to venture out. And my grandfather moved from West Virginia at the time, Holden down later on, and bought a truck, and we'd all get in and go to church from different places. And so I went to church about all my, most of my life. And then after where I moved, I met Gerald, and there was how I got started into Providence Baptist Church. We started up there after I'd married him or even dating him. And he had 2 sisters that were deaf girls.
They were deaf?
Mm-hmm. And Julia and Shirley. And I always enjoyed visiting with them. And when they come, they lived in Columbus during the school year, and then they come home in the summer. And I spent quite a lot of time there with them. And we just got to going to church at Buck Ridge, and that's where I've been going ever since.
Now, you mentioned your family was in West Virginia, and you knew a lot of the families that moved here in Ohio, so the same families that lived in West Virginia knew each other. They all moved to the approximately?
A lot of them, not, the Houstons and the Owens and the Colemans and just different, families. And then a lot of the white people up there that worked, they left the coal mines, and a lot of them moved into this area around here. And that Bidwell was one of the places that some of them moved to. And a lot of them, some of them, they were there for a while, and like I said, wasn't too much around here, and some of them moved away, and well, some of them's gone on now, passed on.
What was your employment? Where are some places you worked?
Well, I started out housework, babysitting, and doing with a lot of prominent families all around Gallipolis. That was about the main thing that was around at the time. And so I did that for quite a long while, and then raising my family and helping Gerald, and then later on I did a lot of sewing too. I sewed for people a lot, and that helped. Later on I started selling Fuller products. Fuller brush, you know the Fuller brush?
What is that?
That was the Fuller brush man. Went door to door sales and sold all the best products there is. But anyway, we were called Fullerettes, and I did that for about 12 years. I sold Fuller products.
Do you remember approximately what years was this that you sold these?
Oh my, let me see. It had to be around the 60s or somewhere over into the 70s. And after that, got kind of, I think the gas situation got rough at the time, so, because you went to the door, knocked on the door, and you take the orders, and then when your orders came in, you had to go back. So I got out of that. Then I opened up my own business. I did open up a ceramic shop, and I did that for 10 or 12 years or more.
Where did you open up the shop?
Out on Buckridge, yeah. It's still standing out there. It's boarded up, but I have all the molds and everything. But I taught classes there, and I really enjoyed it. And it did. And then I would go. I set up a shop in Huntington, in the Huntington store, and we would sell things and out of there, and at the flea markets, I did that a lot, and my products and things. And I had quite a clientele, and teach. It was a lot of fun, but I got to the point that I had to give up. It was a lot of work, the lifting the molds. The fun part is when you're out there, they think when you're teaching, they see all that, but there's a lot of work behind it. I did that.
You mentioned your children. How many children did you have?
I have 5.
And what are their names?
I have Deborah Elaine, and Ralph Edward, and Sandra Kay, and Linda Dawn, and Jeffrey Allen. And then I helped raise, or practically raise, two of my grandchildren that was Bradley Davids and Michael J. And so they were the old one, and I have 2 other grandchildren that are practically been with me all my life. Was their mother? That's McHale Robinson and Maria Robinson. Maria Robinson's here today. She's sitting back there. And because their mother worked, and she said, "Mom, I can't trust my children just anywhere and everywhere, and I trust you." And you seem to have done a pretty good job on us, so I trust you. I said, But anyway, now I'm helping with, I have a great grand that I'm kind of babysitting with, and another grandson that my youngest son, late in life, he has a little boy, and I've been watching them and from time to time. So I just try to help them because they, it's kind of so much going on. They just feel safe with the children with grandma and great grandma.
Growing up, did you ever experience any instances of discrimination, or do you remember experiencing any instances of discrimination growing up?
Yes. Well, in the South, you were kind of born knowing the way things were. we just, we didn't mix, our schools weren't mixed, you know, we had our own black school. And there's a lot of things, I'm beyond that, I've grown past that. That, you know, if for instance you walked along the streets, if we didn't go to town much, but if you did, you know, you kind of stepped off the sidewalk for the white man to, or whatever to pass. And it just so many incidents like that. And like when I went back and said my grandfather was lost from his family. Well, he was a young man and he was supposedly, I guess, gambling, and he won. And they were gonna, that wasn't the right thing to have done, so they, in other words, my grandfather, and he killed him, and so he had to leave there, and that was how he got separated from my father and his family. But it was just so many things that you went in the stores, and I remember you couldn't go, you couldn't go in a restaurant and sit down and eat or anything. They might serve you through the back door if you went for that. And also here, when I went to, in the 50s, there was a store here in this town, restaurants. We didn't, you couldn't, you go in there, you sit and sit and sit. They wouldn't, they were like they were busy, and they wouldn't really serve you. There was one store in this restaurant, and a lot of us black kids would go there, and he was really nice. I won't never forget, that was Mr. Marsh's downtown, and he had the best chili, you know. But but there's just, and over in Point Pleasant, you couldn't, you know, the bus stations, just so many things like that where you couldn't sit, you weren't allowed to sit. And
Here in Ohio?
over in West Virginia was one of the things. Well, here, it was kind of, there was places you're prejudiced too, you know, but they tried to like it wasn't, but it was, you know, you just knew. And when I went to Beulahville School, that was an all-white school. And I think that's how I learned to whoop heads, because it was the name calling, and you don't like that. And we've had many fights, and growing up in Beulahville School. But I look back at then, but you know, they got to be some of my best friends. As I said, things have changed a lot, and it's better. But then it was rough and it was hard.
Growing up, what kinds of food did you eat?
Stop you real quick, I gotta change out tapes.